Salt versus salt. What's the difference? What's the difference between all of these salts? You know, there's iodized, we got sea salt, there's kosher salt. This one here is my favorite. It's the Himalayan pink salt. This is a truffle salt. It's flavored. This is an ancho chili sea salt. And this one I really like. This is a smoked ghost pepper salt for adding just a little bit of heat to things along with it. See, there's different salts for different purposes. We use them for different reasons. And each of those reasons are very specific to what you're using them for. You see, iodized salt, if you look at the grains of all of these, they're all different. Because iodized salt has been really processed. And there's been things that have been added to it, like iodine, but also things have been taken from it, like all the minerals. That's why I like Himalayan pink salt. See, I read an article once, and it was a real short article, but it changed the way I cook. Because I read about how when you use iodized salt or table salt, which you find in most restaurants, if you crave salty snacks, a big part of the reason why you crave salty snacks is because your body knows what it's looking for. It's looking for the minerals that are not in your salty snacks. And so while iodized salt is good for some things, it's not good for others. And they all have different flavor profiles and have different things that they can add, but what's important is the minerals and the deposits that are in salt. So what I found in what this article basically said was you want to eat dirty salt. The more color that's in your salt, the more benefits that it'll have. But also, in researching all this, you have to be careful because like the black Himalayan salt, I found out with some of them, it's just sea salt that they've added activated charcoal to make it black. So there are forgeries as well in salt, which is pretty interesting. But see, God calls us to be salt and light. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. So again, my question is, are you salty? Because if you're not, just take a look at what that last bit says. If you're not salty, if you don't have that saltiness, it's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. Man, that hit me pretty hard. And I had to ask, Lord, am I salty? Am I the kind of salt that you want? Am I just salty? Some of you are just salty. Yeah? No, not you guys sitting here, but people you know. There are people that you know that you work with. Those people are just plain salty, right? See, you have to ask, though, are you serving in the role that you're supposed to? What I use this for, the iodized salt, I don't use it for very much except like canker sores. How many of you get canker sores? You don't have to raise your hand. You can if you want. But when you get a sore in your mouth, iodized salt is great for that. It's great for going in because it kills bacteria. That's one of the things that helps it to preserve is it kills all the bacteria and pulls away moisture from the area. And so when you put that on a sore in your mouth, it helps it to heal faster. And so what type of salt are you? Why does God have you where you are? Some of you, this is my other salt. I keep some in my pocket. I don't always keep it in my pocket just for today. But some of you may have seen on social media, there's a guy named Salt Bae. And he does this thing where he makes these amazing steaks, and then he gets some salt. He just does this right over it. And he took the nation by storm for a while, and it was just amazing to watch. And I started to think about it, and I think that God is kind of like Salt Bae. Because in your job, he's taking you and he's going, here you go, workplace. Here you go, Cornerstone. Your family. Maybe he's just salting your family a little bit with you. You see, you play a role, you play a purpose everywhere that you go. Whether you know it or not, God has intentionally seasoned your situation with you. I already told Angie, who's going to vacuum this up, I already told her that I was going to do this, just so you guys know. You see, like I said, different types of salt have different uses. You can use too much salt. So in your situation, are you being a little much? Sometimes I have to ask myself that. The people who know me know that I am just a ball of energy on caffeine. But I don't drink caffeine because you don't need to see me on caffeine. And so I can be too much sometimes. You can be That's my wife agreeing. Amen. Let's just close right now. I can be too much. But see, what happens when you oversalt a dish? You ruin it. There's not much you can do. And so sometimes we can ruin a situation by being a little much. But see, again, what role is God calling you to in your life, in your situation, in your family? Is he calling you like the iodized salt? I put tape here so it wouldn't all fall off. Is he calling you to bring healing to a situation? Is there something that's festering in a family or a work situation that you need to bring truth to? That only you can address? You see, because this salt won't make a situation sweet. This is used for a specific purpose. And so maybe God has you in your situation to heal something, to bring healing to a situation. Maybe he just needs your flavor. Maybe he just needs you to add your flavor to what it is that you're doing. You see, when we plan events here, it's a collaborative effort. And the reason our events are so much fun is because everybody has a little idea. And these ideas come together to make up what's a great event. And so, without my perspective and my opinions and the way I look at things, there would be some problems that would happen that maybe don't get solved in a certain way because I look at things differently. And so that's not for you to say that God has me here for a reason, that God is having me fulfill a purpose. That's not arrogant or anything. That's just owning what it is that God's called you to do. And so if God has called you to bring flavor to a situation, bring your flavor. Maybe he's going to use you to preserve something. Maybe you're the only Christian in your family. You know what happens when you're not saved is decay and death. We know it's spiritual death. So if God is calling you to be a preservative, he's calling you to live out your journey, live out your relationship with him, because as you do, and people see how God has preserved you, maybe it can happen for them. So take heart. If you're the only Christian in your family, God's put you there for a reason. Maybe it's to add value to a situation. I came across this salt that I really want to try, but it's super expensive. 8 ounces of it is $100 on Amazon. It's called bamboo salt. And the more times it's processed, the better it gets and the more expensive it gets. So what they do is, it comes from South Korea. And what they do is they take sea salt and they pack it into shoots of bamboo that are equally cut. And they bake that salt. They put it into a kiln and they bake it until the bamboo is completely gone. And they bring it out and you've just got these columns of baked salt. And then they hand chop it up. They hand grind it down again, only to pack it again. And they do this 9 or 10 times. It takes a batch of this salt 40 to 50 days to make. That's why it's so incredibly expensive. It's about $11, $12 per ounce. And the thing is, through that baking process, as it's being turned from one type of salt into another, through that baking process, it's absorbing all the oils from the bamboo, and it's got these deposits that are being made into it. And what you have at the very end is this deep purple salt. It's beautiful. And again, the love that has gone into making this salt takes 40 to 50 days for something that somebody's just going to sprinkle on their food. But see, it's those deposits, it's the mineral deposits, it's that process by which this bamboo salt becomes so valuable. It's those minerals in it. It's those deposits. So what has God deposited in you? You see, because God doesn't need a church full of white iodized table salt, because it'll only serve a certain function. You see, our church does no good to anybody else if they come and say, hey, how's it going? And you go, oh, everything's fine, when your world is collapsing around you. Now, you also don't want to weigh everybody down with all of your burdens. But when people ask you, how are you doing? You can tell them, you know what, I'm going through some things right now, but I'm standing on the rock. Things are going tough. I lost my job. But I know my God's got me. You see, this was the thing that two weeks ago, God started to speak to me about the salt, was the deposits that are in it. You want dirty salt. And so I would say that while we don't want dirty Christians, we do want Christians that have deposits of God in our lives. Every one of those situations that you've gone through, all of the pain that you've had, all of the triumphs, all of those are deposits of God in your life, if you recognize them as that. Because, again, we serve a loving God. He doesn't have us go through times of trial and pain for nothing. What he's trying to do is deposit something in your life. Maybe it's patience. For me, one of the biggest deposits in my life that God has given me is that of forgiveness. Because not only has he forgiven me, but he's taught me how to forgive. And for me, that's one of the biggest minerals, one of the biggest things that God has given me. Because when you can forgive people, it helps things to roll off of you so much easier. Because it takes you out of the judgment seat, and it allows you to love on people just in a better way. See, Jesus forgave us, and we look at how he loved.